So today we're going to talk about gaming and esports, and let's just see how it goes. And all of our listeners that know way more about this than I do can go ahead and just email us afterwards and email us their thoughts.
Well, to be very clear, I'm sure there are a lot of listeners that know a lot more about gaming and esports than probably most of us in this room do. At least from a user's perspective. I mean, we look at this market, obviously, from an investor's perspective, and so that'll be the difference. So I'm sure we'll get some terminology wrong or mess something up. But, you know, people will email and tweet and let us know, and we appreciate that.
We do. Thank you.
Because it means they're listening.
Thank you. Keeping us honest. So right now, as we are talking, the League of Legends World Championship is waging in Europe. And bro, I can tell that this means a lot to you. So what is it? What does this even mean? Well, League of Legends is a game. I'm not even going to try and describe what kind of type of game it is, but it's a game that people play. And it's one of those esports competitions that happen. See, I'm already off to a great start.
But what?
The point is that supposedly last year's League of Legends finals were watched by 100 million people. And while that's still very small compared to the billions of people that watch World Cup soccer or Olympic ceremonies, keeping it in the area of sports, that's roughly the same as people who watch the Super Bowl.
It's a lot.
So today we're going to talk about, again, gaming, esports, maybe a little gambling.
Maybe.
All right. Well, let's start off with some fun stats. According to research from Limelight, gamers play on average in the U.S. 7 hours and 7 minutes each week, which is up 20% over last year. Do you want to guess what country where gamers play more on average than the U.S., more hours on average?
China.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with China.
It's Germany.
Germany.
On average, gamers in Germany play almost 8 hours a week. Then comes the U.S. Then after us is Singapore. Most of that time is spent on mobile games. Average 2 hours for gamers. Computer follows that, 1.59, well, almost 2 hours essentially. And then console time, 1 hour and a quarter. So most people are playing casual single-player games like Candy Crush or Angry Birds. Gamers, it probably isn't going to surprise you, 26 to 35 spend most of the time playing. They're about 8.21 hours a week, and those over 60 spend about 5.63 hours playing.
Oh,
yeah, right? Because it's easy to think of as being like a young person's thing.
Yeah.
But actually it's not. And games are so much more, like when we think of games and gamers, we think of like dudes in recliners with their Call of Duty headsets on, and they're like playing marathon like for hours and hours and just eating Frito pie straight out of the bag. And I don't know. Am I the only one? Is that the only? That's what comes to mind for me.
That's a pretty safe stereotype. I feel like.
It's a good stereotype. Like that's the stereotype. But the truth is, a lot of people out there play games.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the numbers in gaming. I mean, go back to 1995, you had somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million gamers in the world. Today, it's 2.6 billion. So you can see how big that is today. And also, when you consider the global population, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 billion, I think, at this point. There's still a lot of room to go. And I think that really a lot has happened in a short amount of time to open up that audience. But you mentioned mobile, and mobile really is the key to it all. When you look at the global games market value in 2018, mobile was $63.2 billion. That was up 13%. Then you had PC at $33.5 billion, console at $38 billion. So mobile has really picked up a lot of share in a short period of time. And that makes perfect sense, right? I mean, now we've got these smartphones in our pockets that do virtually everything, and gaming has changed. The nature of these games has really changed. I mean, I remember when I was 5 years old, and I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but it was long enough back to where my birthday present when I was 5 was the Atari, like the Atari console that you hooked to your TV.
We had a Coleco.
I mean, you get Pong and like
Space Invaders.
And so that was really, to me, the coolest thing that could have ever happened at that time in my life. And it was really just getting started at that point. But gaming was kind of prohibitive, video gaming at least at that point. And today it's extremely unprohibitive. I mean, you can get a game just with a couple of clicks of a button on your phone, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for a lot of different players in that value chain.
Yeah. So when you think about the different, so there's consoles, so like you think about a PlayStation or I don't know, Xbox, whatever.
Yeah, things like that.
People playing
Nintendo,
on your computer, Nintendo. I used to love me some Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a Nintendo. I had probably one of every one of them when I was growing up. Yeah.
And then when you think of mobile, you think of there's also the added revenue generator of ads.
Yes.
You don't have ads. You don't have that on a console game. You don't have that on a computer game necessarily. So is that much of a game changer? Does that make mobile, like people are moving to mobile because they are also moving to their phones, but there's also the added benefit of ad revenue.
Yeah, I mean, there's advertising revenue. There's also the in-app purchases now to where you can play a game and, in order to reach a certain level or to do something different, you can make a purchase here and there. Those little microtransactions really add up. And obviously your phone is more or less just a bank as well. So you can buy virtually anything you want, anytime you want. And so, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different opportunities to monetize in gaming today beyond just what historically was you sell that physical game to the individual, right? The consumer goes in and buys the Donkey Kong cartridge, and then the money has changed hands. That's
Done.
it,
Yeah.
right? You don't take that purchase. That purchase doesn't extend into the future. I'm not upgrading that cartridge. I mean, it was just that one time. Now, I mean, you've got games that live much longer lives because of new iterations, new stories, new themes, new goals, or whatever. I mean, think about Activision Blizzard with the games that they're really well known for, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty. I mean, those are the franchises, but the stories that you can tell within those franchises are virtually endless. I mean, they're actually they can keep on going as long as they have the creative juices to keep coming up with new stories. And they have. They've done a very good job with that. So really it is about coming up with a compelling universe and then figuring out ways to tell all sorts of different stories. And you also see a lot of these gaming companies partnering with all of these bigger companies out there with all that cool IP. Think about Disney, for example, and Marvel superheroes and whatnot. So just a lot of different ways to do it. And anytime you see big market opportunities out there, you're going to see companies go out there and pursue them.
There's also the added element of community when you talk about specifically thinking of World of Warcraft that you mentioned. My husband used to play World of Warcraft, and he was in a guild, and these are real people where you are getting together with real people around the world, and you are going on raids, and you are accomplishing these things together. And so having that element of community also makes these games more sticky than when your community was just the kid next door who would come over and play Donkey Kong.
No doubt. I mean, I think a lot of people really enjoy the fact that they can play games together. And, we were talking before we started taping here about how just 10 years ago or so, Farmville was on Facebook, and Facebook was still a relatively novel concept for a lot of people at that time. And the attraction and being able to play Farmville and then talk with your friends about what you're doing and how that's working. There was a social dynamic to it. And certainly Zynga is a company that was on the forefront of bringing social and gaming together and partnered up with Facebook to be able to get out there in front of the widest audience. And I think a lot of producers these days, game publishers and whatnot, are all using that social aspect, that social dynamic when they consider the games that they're making, because it is something that matters to a lot of people.
So you've talked about, by name, Activision Blizzard. Zynga's still around? I don't even hear the name.
Zynga is still around, yeah. As a matter of fact, and I guess I could say this, it's a recent recommendation in Stock Advisor.
Oh, really?
David Gardner picked it out in Stock Advisor several months back. Just saw some good things they were doing. And David obviously is a big gamer, so for him that was neat to see that Zynga maybe has got a second act.
So when we're talking about other game makers, a lot of them are going to be small, privately held companies. But are there any in particular that you really like? So you've mentioned Activision, Blizzard, Zynga.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be a lot of companies that a lot of our listeners and members are very familiar with. I mean, Tencent is one that I think is important simply because it's basically the biggest gaming company in the world. I mean, and that's based out in China. So Tencent, I think, is always one to consider. Activision, Blizzard, Take-Two Sports. Those are all companies that are available for investors today. One that I've got my eye on that's not public yet, but I'm excited for it to go public. I think it will go public at some point. It's a company called Niantic. And Niantic is the company that was behind Pokemon Go, behind the new Harry Potter Wizards Unite game. And those are games that were very mobile-based, incorporated augmented reality, which I love. And I think that right now, if you want ownership in Niantic, you've got to own shares of Alphabet. Alphabet still owns a little piece of that company, but I think at some point here in the near future, we'll see Niantic go public, and that to me would be really exciting because that's a gaming company that really is focusing on a lot of this future technology in AR and VR and mixed reality and whatnot.
It's funny that you mention Niantic because I was saying the stereotype of what a typical gamer is, and which is not me. Like I was not describing myself, but like I'm like, oh, I play the Harry Potter game. Oh, I played Pokemon. I play several mobile games. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I'm a gamer.
Can I ask you a question about the Harry Potter game while we're at this? Because I'm not the biggest gamer in the world anymore. I mean, I like going back a ways and hitting that arcade downstairs where you've got Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. I downloaded the Harry Potter game and fiddled around with it for a little while just to get familiar with the technology. That seemed to me to not be the easiest game in the world to play. Like I couldn't figure out exactly what was the ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
It was a bit confusing, and I never played Pokemon Go, so I couldn't make the comparison there. But of Pokemon Go, I'm assuming you played Pokemon Go.
I did play Pokemon Go. Yeah.
What was your take on those two?
Okay, so I live in Old Town Alexandria, which is a pretty densely populated place, and so that really helps when you play these games because there are specific real world places that you have to go to to do things, right? So you have to go to specific places to get more spells if you're playing the
go to the
Potter
Washington
game.
Monument and get this thing.
Right. Yeah. But it's also just like the CVS on the corner or the whatever. Or it just happens to be. But they've put all of these locations are more dense where people are more dense. So it becomes much easier to play when you live somewhere where it is densely populated. And basically you just walk around and do stuff. And so you're walking around and you look on your map and things will pop up and you tap them and then, oh, look, it's a Dementor. I need to cast a spell to catch the Dementor. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Rick used to play Pokemon Go. He can also describe it too.
And my kids are big into Harry Potter's and the Wizards
Unite. Wizards Unite.
Yeah, they play that as well. It's definitely in the tween demographic. Those games are great. And there's not a really objective other than to gain levels, I guess.
Just keep having fun.
Yeah, and there is a community. I mean, just to level up is a goal. And there's also a community element to both of them. Definitely with Pokemon Go, you were supposed to come together to take down really, really big Pokemon. And we did. And we actually made... I'm sounding like such a nerd. I love it. So we actually made friends because you have to go to these specific locations at specific times to capture a specific special Pokemon, and you're like, oh, hey, how you been? Oh, I saw you the last time. And then we became friends with people at the PTO, and we would go out together.
That's funny.
And
well, you connect the dots. I mean, we were talking about Tencent, and I mean, for people who don't fully know Tencent, I mean, they do a number of different things in China, but Tencent owns a controlling stake in Epic Games, and Epic Games is the home of Fortnite. And I'd be willing to bet that everybody out there has heard of Fortnite. So if you want to invest in Fortnite, you invest in Tencent. So there you go. That connects the dots.
You have to say, as a parent, Fortnite is everybody's nightmare as a parent. Whereas the Pokemon Go and the wizarding thing, like my kids ask me, like, hey, can I go for a walk? They want to go outside. They want to go out in the neighborhood. They want to go do things. Yeah, they might walk in the middle of the road in traffic without looking up from the phone. But
other than that.
Usually I'll go with them. Well, my son and I will go on a Poke Walk, we call it. And it's much better than Fortnite.
Yeah, because Fortnite is basically they're just going around and like killing other people.
That's putting the headset on, saddling up, and then
like yelling at people and being mean and saying angry things and killing each other and dancing.
Which is the downside of social, right? I mean, not all social is good. There are a lot of people out there in the world who just aren't very nice. And unfortunately, these social aspects let them all come to the forefront because there really isn't accountability. I mean, there's no gaming police that's going to yank your card if you're being mean. I mean, it is. They do suffer from all of the things that these social platforms today suffer from. So those are always things that keep in mind. I mean, I think Rick's example there is an interesting one.
Yeah, well, like Pokemon Go and Wizards Unite is kind of like, to make an analogy to like a board game, they're like cooperative games, kind of. You can play them on your own, but they are like cooperative, so you don't need to be mean to other people.
Yeah.
Whereas games like Fortnite, you're trying to kill other people. But
you can
That can be fun. And that can be fun. And you can kill each other good-naturedly.
And you can join on the team with your friends. My 15-year-old daughter does a lot of Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
And she does it with her gymnastics friends. They all form a team, and they take on horrible people throughout the world.
Very lucky that neither of my daughters have just expressed any interest. I mean, they'll fiddle around with some games on their phone from here and there, but never got bit by the Fortnite bug. And Pokemon Go, I guess, was just a little bit before they really got their phones.
They gotta have a phone, yeah.
One other thing with my son, who did a lot of the Fortnite and stuff like that, where it used to be, like you said, like you'd go to your friend's house and pull out the Atari and stuff like that. You don't go to your friend's house anymore because you can just play online.
Yeah, I'll meet you on the TV.
Yes, so that made me a little sad. That you don't have the same, like everyone's getting together in the basement and then you know,
sitting cross-legged on the shag rug.
Get out the snacks and then watch a movie.
Well, I mean, you think about that. I mean, like when I was a kid, I mean, you get out on your bicycle and you ride wherever you want to go. I mean, now people aren't doing that as much because they don't have to actually go to the physical place to get there. I mean, there are virtual ways to get there, and so it's technology it giveth and it taketh away, and you got to deal because there's nothing stopping it.
Yep.
All right, well, that's maybe enough of a bunch of uninformed old people talking about a young man's game.
Or a young woman's game too.
Young woman's game too, that's true.